All right, what's up guys? I just got these Vessel Power Sports LED lights installed. I'll give you a full walkthrough, but just my opinions on them real quick. So a couple things I really like. I didn't realize this, but you can adjust them high and low beam separately, and you can adjust them left and right. So the main thing I like is the adjustability. You can see how I've got mine adjusted there. I have the top lights aiming straight forward, like a spotlight for higher speed, and then I have the bottom lights angled out like a floodlight for lower speed. That's pretty cool. These things do project very well for an LED. You can see how deep the LEDs are set back in there, so they do have a nice lens. A lot of LEDs just kind of flood, but these are pretty much like a similar spot to the factory headlight. So that's really cool, and of course they are super freaking bright, and they installed really easy. I honestly spent a lot more time getting mine aligned because I'm really picky than I did installing them. It's just 4 bolts or 4 screws to install. You can kind of see how I have mine adjusted there. But yeah, pretty sweet. Really happy with them. I'm gonna put a set on the Pioneer 500 next. But yeah, if your headlights have water in them, this is definitely the way to go to get some serious lightage. And they install really easy, and they're gonna be a lot more waterproof than the Honda junk, because the Honda junk is just a plastic thing, and the bulbs leak, and they leak all around the seams. So I actually had to drill holes in these. You can see where I drilled some holes because they were just fish tanks. So happy to get rid of those. What's up guys? Today I'm installing these LED lights on the Foreman 500 because my lights have kind of turned into fish tanks. I actually drilled a hole in them. You can see the hole because I've got tired of just having a gallon of water sloshing around. That one's still full of water. These Honda lights aren't sealed very good, and if you go deep like me, well, they die. So these are from Vessel Power Sports. I've seen a lot of these lights and the hardware is really thin and kind of crappy. These actually look really good. Nice powder coat, nice light bars. They're big 8-inch light bars. So yeah, I think they're gonna be pretty good. The connectors look good. Good heat shrink with the glue squirting out. Love to see that. And they plug right in. So I've done a bunch of the conversions where you put Pioneer 1000 headlights on here. Huge pain in the ass, cutting, modding, heat gun. Then you gotta do wiring. And the aftermarket Pioneer 1000 headlights also started leaking. So I'm gonna try these out now. So one thing I'm gonna do before I put them in there, you can see how the bracket there isn't quite tightened down yet because they're made to be adjustable. I'm gonna tighten down the screws a couple times and then loosen them back up just to get everything kind of flat and aligned before I put them in there. And then I'll put them in, adjust them, and tighten them back down again. I'm not gonna put any Loctite. It looks like that bolt has a locking feature on the back of it. Usually I have to Loctite these in when I install them for customers, but this hardware looks a lot bigger than the hardware that comes on some of the other light bars. So yeah, they should be nice and waterproof and look like they install pretty easy. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4 bolt holes. And if we look over here, by the way, I jacked up the ATV pretty high in order to do this because I like to be as comfortable as possible when doing literally anything, even an easy job like this. But yeah, so the 4 mounts you're gonna reuse is these 2 at the bottom, 1 and 2, and then 2 at the top, 1 and 2. So it looks like it's gonna be pretty easy to do this. There's another mount here that Honda uses that I don't think you're going to be using, which is this 10mm bolt that goes to this bracket. So yeah, pretty simple. So let's zip out these screws with our drill. Because again, make everything as easy as possible. Don't lose these because you're gonna put them back in, I think. Let's get the one way back in here first, probably a little harder. Nope, still pretty easy. All right, did that with one hand. Got our 1/4-inch impact. I think that's it. Yeah, that's really, really easy. And then unplug the light. The connector looks good. I'm gonna put some dielectric grease and some contact conditioner in there because obviously there's a little bit of corrosion. But yeah, you get to get rid of this whole crappy thing here. So you see how mine's full of water? Yeah, not good. If you do the conversion to the aftermarket P1000 lights, you have to drill holes all over this thing and cut it up, and it doesn't fit quite right, and the adjuster doesn't work quite right. So love to just throw that in the trash. This bracket right here is not going to be used, but that's fine because the way they mount in, you don't really need that. This right here is bent because I just yanked out the screen in front of it. But yeah, let's go ahead and condition this up. When I have some corroded contacts like that. Just like that. Okay, so for this part, I actually do need 2 hands. So all I'm gonna do is take the screws and loosely put them in there. I'm gonna leave them a turn loose. That way I can get everything kind of centered. But there's plenty of room to get in here and mess with these bolts and adjust everything because there's not a big plastic guard in the back of it. Also, you can do the wiring after you mount it now. So yeah, I'm just gonna put the phone down. I'm gonna put these 4 screws back in. Right, so I got the 4 screws back in. 1, 2, 3, 4. Could not have been easier. Don't use a drill putting them back in. I use a regular screwdriver because obviously you're screwing into plastic. Like I said, this mount right here does not get reused, so that's just gonna kind of be floating there. But it does feel pretty sturdy because it's a metal bracket that's fitting close to the fender. It's not this big light that's gonna bounce around. So I'll probably recheck the torque on these screws after I ride it once. You can see that there's some wiggle room, how those holes are cut out. So I kind of positioned it roughly in the center. Mine's actually slid over that way a little bit. I kind of looked at where it was sitting in the opening here and played with it. I'll plug in our connector. So the gasket goes in there nicely and that clicks. Now we've got some extra cable here. I'm gonna loop it up probably behind the lights like this, so it's really far away from the tire, and put a few zip ties to secure it like that. Once I get them all adjusted, I'll probably zip tie them down. They're not blue, by the way. I don't like colors that much, so I got the white ones. This is just a film they have on there to protect them. Looks pretty sweet. Let me get the other one installed, and then we'll do a little garage test. Okay, one thing to point out on the right side is that it's a little harder to get to that last screw. You can see it up there, right there. You can see it. That's the screw. So you got to come up with a Phillips screwdriver. You can't get the drill in here on this side. You got to come with a Phillips screwdriver right here. And the reason for this is that your power steering computer's in the way. So yeah, that's the screw right there. So it's a little harder to get to on this side, but you can definitely get to it with a regular screwdriver. Just take your time. Use a light. That makes a big difference. Okay, so one thing I just realized is there's a lot more adjustment than I thought. So this is your low beam, this is your high beam. So you can adjust the low and the high beam separately, which is pretty cool. You can't do that stock. You can also use these slots back here to aim them left and right. So what I did was I aimed my low beams a little farther out, and I aimed my high beams a little straighter forward. So you can see how my high beam slot is almost fully utilized on there and only half utilized there. And on this side, I have them both all the way up against the bracket. That's just how I decided to do it. To make it a little easier to adjust, I did find if I got them in there and I took a screwdriver like this and I went in, I could kind of use this to pry on the bolt. I don't know if that makes sense. See the bolt head back there? I kind of went in like this and pried right here, pulled out on the screwdriver to push the light back, and that made it easier to get it all lined up. But yeah, I really like that you can adjust the high and low beams separately from each other, and that you have left and right adjustment. So I've got this covered up for now just to show you what it looks like if you don't have a headlight pod, because most of you guys have ready to relocate as far as I'm aware. So yeah, here's how they look. So that's my low beams. So they're pretty low and they're kind of pointed out more like a flood. And then my high beams are a little more straightforward in the center. You can see the differences between the centers. And it's pretty freaking bright. Let me show you what this light does when I uncover it. Almost nothing. So now I'm gonna cover up the vessel lights and show you what I had before. So before I just had the headlight pod, because my lights were full of water. It's not completely covered. Wait. Oh. So that's what I had before, okay? And this is what I got now. Pretty big difference in brightness. So they are nice and bright, and they're LEDs, so they're efficient. They're not going to completely kill your battery immediately, like a high power halogen or something. Pretty nice. Of course, when you're done, make sure you go in here and tighten down your 10mm bolts, and also tighten down all your screws. But yeah, you can see how I have them adjusted right there. Like I said, the top lights are aimed in a little bit more, and the bottom lights are aimed out a little bit more.